The Scandalous Secrets of Fredegund, a queen's dark love triangle exposed at midnight. In the suffocating darkness of the royal chamber, Fredegund gasped as a chill swept through the air, one that felt as if it carried whispers of treachery. Shadows danced on the walls like specters, and the silence was thick, heavy, almost alive. She had been waiting for this moment, balancing on the razor's edge between danger and desire. Tonight, secrets would bleed into the night, and the truth would haunt her forever. As she fidgeted with the lace of her gown, its rich crimson fabric clung to her, both a symbol of her power and a banner of her hidden guilt. It was an unholy union of love and betrayal. Beneath the moonlit sky, the stories of her heart lay intertwined with those of her husband, the unsuspecting King Chilperic, and his rival, a far more dangerous man named Gallo. It was a scandalous love triangle that had been brewing in the shadows, but tonight, it threatened to erupt. In the quiet of the castle, distant sounds echoed, a clock ticking too slowly, the rustle of armor from guards too near, and her heartbeat drumming a frantic rhythm in her ears. With trembling hands, she clutched a dagger hidden beneath her gown, the cold steel a bitter reminder of the price of freedom. Who was she really? A queen, a traitor, or something much darker? The lines blurred under the weight of the impending revelation. Just as Fredegund steeled herself for the confrontation, the door creaked open, revealing Gallo, his silhouette highlighted by the flickering candlelight. His eyes sparkled with mischief and malice, sending shivers down her spine. "Come to me, my queen," he murmured, his voice a velvety sin that dripped like poison into her ear. The temptation was like a drug, thrilling yet frightening. She fought the internal war, caught between thrill and dread. How did we come to this? She wondered, searching his gaze for any hint of genuine feeling, but finding none. The tension crackled, both exhilarating and unbearable, and she felt the walls closing in as Gallo took a step closer. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Gallo's fingers brushed against the dagger at her side, making her breath hitch. You know what you want, Fredegund. You've always known. The audacity of his words ignited a flicker of anger in her heart. How dare he presume to understand her? But his gaze was magnetic, drawing her in toward the void. As Fredegund glanced at him, she could see the reflection of her own chaotic desires mirrored in his eyes. The stakes were higher now, more than just a wager of hearts. The very throne was at risk. A flicker of light from the corridor caught her attention, and for a moment, dread lodged in her throat. Someone was coming. The pulse of urgency quickened. Would they discover their secret rendezvous? The weight of the impending confrontation loomed like a storm cloud, darkening the chamber with each passing second. Caught between love and ambition, Fredegund's heart raced, torn as she faced the decisive moment that could shatter the fragile web of lies. Would she embrace her darkest desires, or claim her rightful position as queen? The answer hung in the air, tantalizingly out of reach. Fredegund's world teetered on the edge. Gallo's whisper was a flame, consuming her resolve. The door creaked louder, panic rising in her chest. Would it be her husband? Would he walk in at the very moment she contemplated a betrayal so profound it could topple kingdoms? She gritted her teeth, fighting to steady her breath. With a sharp movement, she took a step back, distancing herself from Gallo's penetrating gaze. "You have no idea what you're asking of me," she said, anger mixing with fear. The dagger felt heavier, pressing against her side, a traitorous weight that echoed her turmoil. "Am I asking, or are you longing?" His teasing tone taunted her, fishing for her weakness. Gallo stepped closer, invading her space as shadows danced unnaturally along the walls. "You're drawn to me, just as I am to you. You know there's no going back." Fredegund's heart pounded, each throb screaming the truth she longed to silence. The promises Gallo whispered in her ear held a danger she craved. But behind those dark promises lay the terrifying prospect of crashing down. A kingdom would burn, all because of one slip. Would the warmth of his affection sacrifice her reign? The corridor light flickered again, and her instincts shot into overdrive. You must leave. Now. She gasped. Sweat trickled down her spine as she discreetly angled the dagger, its cool steel gleaming sharply beneath her gown, but Gallo's lips twisted into a knowing smile, a smirk that crawled under her skin like a creeping shadow. And if I don't? What will you do? Stab me with what you suppress? He leaned forward, eyes sparkling with defiance, challenging her to make a choice. Reveal your true self, Fredegund. Time warped, the seconds stretching painfully. Fredegund's breathing turned ragged. Her mind raced. Could she really pull the dagger on Gallo? Had she already been willing to make that enormous leap? Just then, the door swung open further, and Fredegund's heart dropped. It was not her husband, it was one of the guards. The man's eyes widened as he took in the scene. The chamber enveloped in tension, silence slithered around them, thick and treacherous. Your Majesty? He stammered, shifting awkwardly, unsure how to navigate the charged atmosphere. Gallo, with a flicker of irritation, stepped back, feigning innocence while his expression sharpened like the dagger hidden at Fredegund's side. Ah, we were merely discussing matters of the heart. Weren't we, my queen? His voice dripped with mockery, sharpened by the sudden intrusion. The guard blinked, his face flushing as confusion played across his features. Should I know? Fredegund snapped, her throat tight. She could feel the waves of discontent rising like a tide she could no longer control. Leave us be. I require privacy. The guard hesitated, but critical instincts kicked in as loyalty battled uncertainty. He bowed his head and backed out slowly, leaving the door ajar, a crack into the chaos looming beyond. The moment the door clicked shut, Fredegund's patience fractured. You think this is a game? Her voice trembled, rage and fear mingling like a wildfire. You risk everything by taunting me. How dare you play this part? Gallo laughed, low and dangerous, echoing around the chamber. What if I told you that the king is growing suspicious? The longer you deny your desire for what lies between us, the closer he gets to discovering everything. A wave of betrayal swept through her, icy and numb. Would Gallo's truth become her undoing? Would she lose herself in his darkness? With the dagger still gripped tightly in her hand, she faced her own reflection in Gallo's eyes, attempting to discern where love ended and treachery began. Tell me, she whispered, voice barely audible. What do you want? He stepped closer, an intoxicating presence, and the air thickened with tension. I want you, Fredegund. But first, you must choose who you will be, the queen or the lover in the dark. As his words echoed, the gravity of her choices clenched around her throat like a noose. What was she willing to sacrifice? The flicker of the candlelight danced around them, revealing the truth of her fragile world. In the vast silence, poised on the cusp of an irreversible decision, Fredegund knew this moment was only the beginning of a chain reaction. Behind it all lay secrets, lies, and a game that had only just begun to unfold. The door stood ajar, a portal to a kingdom fraught with peril. Would she embrace the scandal or find a way through? As cold air swept in, Fredegund shivered, realization dawning like the first light of day. But was it already too late to choose wisely? Fredegund's heart raced, each beat reverberating in her ears like a war drum. She locked eyes with Gallo, searching desperately for clues in the depths of his smirk. His self-assuredness twisted her stomach into knots. You think you can toy with my heart while I wear a crown? She accused, her voice barely above a whisper yet filled with an urgency that demanded recognition. Do I? Gallo stepped back slightly, feigning innocence. Or is it the crown that confuses you? Behind it lies a woman yearning for freedom, he countered, voice silky as it slid through the air. He gestured to the dagger, each subtle movement amplifying the tension. Take a leap, Fredegund. You could have it all. And with that, the air thickened with anticipation. The silence bore down on her like a weight, the question pulsating between them: what price was she willing to pay? Freedom? She scoffed, disbelief igniting the spark of her defiance. Freedom comes with chains, Gallo. You know that. Her words echoed in the chamber, filled with a mix of bravado and desperation. Gallo's dark eyes flickered, a moment of something unrecognizable crossing his face. Was it regret? You underestimate the power of desire. The king knows little of the heart's true machinations, he said, his voice low and laced with seduction. Fredegund's thoughts spiraled. She could already feel the shift beneath her. What if Gallo was right? What if her facade of control was merely a fragile veneer hiding a deeper craving? She glanced toward the door, the wood cold and unforgiving, a reminder that anyone could enter at any moment. What if he does find out? She questioned, the tremor in her voice betraying her facade of strength. What then? Gallo moved closer again, invading her space like a dark shadow drawing in the light. Then we danced the waltz of treachery together, he murmured, his breath brushing against her cheek, igniting the glimmer of temptation she fought hard to extinguish. A sick feeling settled in her stomach, twisting and turning as a sharp sound muted their connection. Feeble knocks echoed through the chamber, cacophony of dread that sent shards of panic racing through her veins. Your Majesty! Go away! Fredegund snapped, the command raw and instinctual, her authority echoing off the walls. But the intruder persisted, the muffled voice on the other side crackled with concern. Your Majesty, please. The king is demanding to see you immediately. Gallo straightened, an amused glint in his eyes. The game was escalating. Looks like your time is up, sweetheart, he said smoothly, stepping back. Will you dare defy him? Each syllable dripped with challenge, slinking through her defenses. The weight of the dagger felt suddenly heavier, a grim reminder of the duality of her existence. The crown was no longer just a symbol of power, it felt like a noose tightening around her throat. Raking her fingers through her hair, Fredegund's thoughts raced. Her heart pounded a frantic rhythm. Was this her breaking point? What do you truly want? She asked again, desperation lacing her voice, displacing her pride. Can you take me away from all this? Only if you're willing to abandon it, Gallo shot back without hesitation. Love and power belong to the brave. As the urgency mounted, Fredegund felt a crack in her resolve, a flicker of desire battling against her fear. The door loomed, an entry to her husband's wrath and a life she had built with trembling hands. What would become of her? Would she choose safety or plunge into the exhilarating unknown with Gallo by her side? With every second that passed, the world outside her chamber threatened to drown her in chaos. Fredegund. The voice at the door broke through her tempest of thoughts once more, a reminder of the looming reality. She inhaled sharply, the taste of fear mingling with the sweetness of rebellion. In one lightning moment, she felt the gravitational pull toward Gallo. And yet, she could see the chains tightening around her, both imaginarily forged by choice and bound by duty. Would she walk into the path of destruction prepared by her own hands? Or would the queen inside her reclaim the power she was born with? The darkness whispered sweetly, affirming her desires, but the light of her position screamed against it. Fredegund was caught between two worlds, two futures. In one breath, she knew she had to decide. The chamber door rattled ever so slightly, the weight of her decision pressing down. With Gallo's breath on her skin and the king's call echoing in the distance, the climax approached. She was drawn toward the edge. Could she leap? Every heartbeat screamed an answer she wasn't ready to accept. The moment had come, but which way would she choose? The door swung open, revealing a guard, breathless and pale, eyes wide with an urgency that sliced through the thick tension. Your Majesty, he panted, the king grows restless. You must come at once. Fredegund's heart dropped. The king was not known for his patience or mercy when he felt slighted. She caught Gallo's watchful gaze, challenge burning in his low smirk. With one last fleeting instant, the danger of her position sizzled through her. She was standing on the precipice of destiny. Lead the way, she commanded, willing her legs to move. But just before she took her first step, she turned back to Gallo, feeling her voice catch like thorns in her throat. This isn't over, she whispered, the words hanging heavy in the air like a promise laced with threat. Be careful, Fredegund, he said, a shadow of warning creeping into his tone. A storm brews beneath the crown. As she stepped into the hallway, the chill of cold stone filled her lungs. The guard marched ahead, glancing back with a mixture of concern and confusion. Navigating the winding corridors, Fredegund felt the walls closing in, her world narrowing into a crucible of choices. Her heart raced anew with every echoing footfall, each step dragging her further from Gallo and deeper into a web of duties that felt more like a trap. The air buzzed with uncertainty. What awaited her in the king's chambers? She recalled Gallo's words, each inflection lingering ominously. Only if you're willing to abandon it. It was a temptation that beckoned her, even amidst the daunting shadows of a king's wrath. With every pulse, the dagger's significance throbbed in her mind. Could she wield the power of life and death over her own fate? As they approached the grand double doors, she heard the muffled sounds of heated discussion emanating from within. The low growl of the king's voice, dripping with authority, made her stomach churn. "Bring her to me now," he roared, laced with a fury she'd witnessed before. A growing dread tightened her throat, the crown on her head feeling heavier still. "Your Majesty?" The guard hesitated, looking toward her for guidance before pushing open the doors with a creak that echoed like the tolling of a bell. Inside, the king loomed over a crumpled parchment, a hulking silhouette marred by the flickering torchlight. His face was obscured in shadow, but she could sense the tempest of his emotions swirling like a gathering storm. "Fredegund!" he bellowed as she stepped inside. "Come here." Every fiber of her being screamed to flee, yet she steadied herself, striding toward his imposing figure. Her pulse quickened as she met his cold gaze, a familiar mixture of pride and fear bubbling up within her. "Did you think you could evade me?" he spat, frustration sharp in his tone. "We have matters to discuss." "Of course," she replied, voice steadier than she felt. "What troubles you, my king?" He slammed the parchment onto the table, revealing a detailed list of potential treasons plotted by conspirators she could only assume were close to the kingdom. An icy hand gripped her heart. How many secrets were harbored behind her own back? "People speak of discontent," he muttered, scanning her face for cracks in her facade. "I need to know that you are loyal. That I can trust you." The weight of his words draped heavily on her shoulders, and suddenly, the implications of Gallo's seduction stabbed through her thoughts like a twisted knife. "Loyalty is complex, my king," she replied, swallowing hard. "What if the truth lies beyond what we can see?" His brow furrowed, confusion and suspicion battling for dominance. "What truth?" Just then, a soft whisper fluttered in from the shadows, barely audible but potent enough to bring cold sweat prickling at Fredegund's neck. "Your Majesty." The voice belonged to Celeste, the king's maid, her fearful eyes darting between them. "It's about Gallo." Fredegund's stomach dropped, the world narrowing again around the gaping jaws of consequence. Here, time froze, laden with the tension of 1,000 unspoken secrets. What had Gallo done? What lay in wait beneath the surface of betrayal? With all eyes fixed on her, Fredegund felt her heart pound like a war drum once more. In this moment, everything hinged on one word: loyalty or treachery. And as the candle flames flickered uncertainly, she knew she was on the edge of a revelation that could unravel everything she held dear. Fredegund's breath caught in her throat. The mere mention of Gallo ignited a tempest within her. She wanted to scream, to defend him, but the words tangled in her mind like tangled roots, each thought roiling with confusion and fear. Celeste stepped closer, her eyes darting like frightened birds, panic eclipsing her features. "It's not just talk, Your Majesty. There are whispers, dark ones. They say Gallo has been meeting with the enemies of the crown." The king's gaze burned into Fredegund like a branding iron. Her pulse raced, the weight of her choices heavy on her heart. She felt exposed, a marionette with strings pulled tight. "You must understand," she started, but the king cut her off with a furious gesture. "Do I? Do I truly need to understand the dance of betrayal that encircles my court? This is the man you have chosen to trust, and he is scheming against us." His voice was thunder, raw, potent, and dangerously close to unleashing chaos. Fredegund's blood ran cold. Anchors of loyalty she had forged with Gallo trembled as shadows of doubt crept in. "You think Gallo would betray me? Us? Her voice shook slightly, betraying several layers of emotion she was fighting to contain. Maybe he has seen the thrill of treachery just outside his door, the king countered, his features twisted under the flickering torchlight. And maybe you are too blinded by love to see him clearly. A bolt of anger shot through her. Love? Was it love that had led her to the brink of disloyalty? Was Gallo using her? Clenching her fists, she steadied her resolve. I know Gallo. He wouldn't turn against the crown without just cause, she insisted, desperation rising in her voice like bitter bile. Then why does Celeste come bearing such grim news? The king's words dripped with suspicion. He stepped closer, his shadow swallowing her whole. The court is rife with gossip. If he meant to harm me, then he will expect harsh reprisal. And if you believe otherwise, you place yourself in peril. Fredegund's heart raced. It was an ultimatum that sunk deep into her chest, hammering the idea of what lay at stake, a love entangled in shadows, veiled by self-interest. She could feel her resolve beginning to wane. Tell me the truth, Fredegund, does he love you, or is it some ploy for power? Do you understand the stakes? The king's voice, while commanding, carried a rough edge that hinted at desperation. Then, without another word, Celeste stepped back into the shadows. Fredegund turned, her eyes narrowing, hunting the maid's every movement. What role was she really playing in this sinister game? The air thickened with treachery and betrayal as Fredegund battled her thoughts, pressing the weight of her reality against her very essence. Gallo or the crown? Which path drew closer to fruition? Was she indeed just a pawn in the king's larger design, or did she have the power to shape her own fate? Fredegund, the king pressed again, urgency biting each syllable. Time is running thin, and I need your unwavering loyalty. In that moment, clarity struck like lightning. She had to act. I will uncover the truth, she declared, the defiance raging within her. But let me confront Gallo first. I will not let deceit waltz around me unscathed. The king hesitated, seeing the fire in her eyes. Very well, he said, his tone reluctant yet yielding. But the moment you find evidence of treachery, you must return to me swift as a falcon. Fredegund nodded, a plan spinning in her mind like a whirlwind. She would seek Gallo, prying into the realm of loyalty and betrayal with tenacity. As she turned to leave, she felt it, the suffocating weight of secrets engulfing her, wrapping tighter and tighter. The whispers of treachery also danced through her mind like a sweet poison. Would she bring Gallo into the light or drown in the darkness of their shared secrets? In the hushed silence of the chamber, Fredegund sensed the clock ticking, each heartbeat echoing with uncertainty. Would she embrace the darkness for love, or would she emerge unscathed, clutching the truth tightly in her grasp, with every step she took? Back into the depths of the castle, she could feel the tendrils of fate intertwining, a slow creeping anticipation of what awaited her at the summit where loyalty intertwined with treason. A confrontation loomed. What would reveal itself beneath the shroud of secrecy? Only one chance remained. Fredegund moved through the castle's dimly lit corridors, her heart a drum of dread and purpose. Shadows danced against the walls, whispering their secrets, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She could almost hear Gallo's voice echoing in her mind, sweet yet laced with something darker. Had he truly betrayed her? Clay-like uncertainty molded her thoughts as she approached the small courtyard where they often met. Night enveloped the courtyard, the moon a silvery sentinel witnessing the storm brewing within her chest. The air felt thick, stifled by her unspoken fears. She prayed Gallo would be there, waiting for her with those eyes that consumed her worries. But what if he wasn't alone? What if the whispers were true? Fredegund pushed through the heavy wooden door, the creaking hinges announcing her arrival. She scanned the area, her pulse racing in response to the silence that greeted her. The fragrant blooms in the garden stood out starkly against the dark, their beauty a cruel reminder of her situation. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, his silhouette cutting through the gloom. Relief flooded her for a heartbeat until clarity settled in. This was Gallo, but would he bring the truth she craved or the knife she feared? Fredegund, his voice was low, almost a whisper, yet it vibrated with a mix of warmth and urgency. You came. I had to, she replied, willing her voice not to quaver. She stepped forward, desperation clawing at her. "We need to talk. Celeste," she spoke, "of danger, of treachery. They think you're plotting against the crown." For a moment, shock shattered the calm in his eyes. He stepped closer, tension crackling between them like static. "I would never. You know me, Fredegund." He reached for her hand, grounding her. Her pulse quickened again, but not only from fear. "Do I? Because doubt has cloaked my heart." Her breath hitched, the weight of her words hanging between them like a sword ready to fall. "They say you're meeting with our enemies. Is there truth to these whispers?" For a fleeting second, Gallo hesitated. His brow furrowed, and a flicker of something passed through his gaze, a shadow of guilt. Anguish? She couldn't tell. She could only feel the ground beneath her trembling. "Listen to me," he urged, his grip tightening around her fingers. "I've been trying to protect you, to protect everything we've built. But I can't do this alone. Protect me." Fredegund's voice rose incredulously, a flare of anger punctuating her confusion. "Or protect yourself? What are you hiding?" "We're all caught in a web far more intricate than we realize," Gallo said, his intensity drawing her in. "Sworn loyalties are unraveling around us, but I'm not your enemy. You have to trust me." With each desperate plea, fear nudged deeper into Fredegund's heart. How many enmities and alliances lay hidden behind their exchanged glances? Would her loyalty doom them both? She pulled her hand free, needing space, needing to think. A breeze swept through the courtyard, chilling her resolve. "What did you get tangled in? Who are these enemies?" His eyes darkened with pain, and that flicker returned, brighter this time. "I can't speak of it here. Not with ears everywhere. But if you believe in us, in what we stand for, come to the old mill at dawn. I'll show you everything." That promise hung in the air, tangible and heavy. But doubt crept in. Could he actually reveal anything of substance? Or would the truth tear them apart? Fredegund took a shaky breath. "And if you don't show? If you're lying? I wouldn't risk everything. Just trust me one last time," he implored, desperation threading through his voice. Torn, Fredegund nodded slowly, the decision settling over her like a cold fog. Gallo's sincerity felt real, but the stakes were rising, and betrayal was stalking her every step. As she turned to leave, the sharp clang of metal echoed in the distance. A clamor of voices cut through the night, raising her instincts. "What was that?" she gasped, turning back to Gallo, panic radiating within her. His expression sharpened, a mix of concern and fear etched across his features. "Fredegund, you need to hide. Quickly." She barely had time for questions. Heart racing, she slipped back into the shadows just as the door burst open. Heavy boots thundered into the courtyard, guards, searching. Had Celeste informed the king? Adrenaline surged as Fredegund pressed herself against the cold wall, her breath shallow. She caught Gallo's gaze one last time before the chaos enveloped them. Now caught in a storm of uncertainty, she would have to navigate this new danger carefully, deciding who deserves her trust and who was truly conspired against. Would she discover the truth or be swallowed whole by the gathering storm? The stakes had never been higher. And dawn was approaching. The raucous sound of boots thudding against cobblestones drowned out each racing heartbeat in Fredegund's chest. She pressed herself tighter against the wall, her body going rigid as a wave of panic washed over her. The guards were here, their purpose as menacing as the clashing swords they wore at their sides. She could hear gruff voices, urgent whispers filled with suspicion. "Search the courtyard. She has to be here." One barked, authoritative and brimming with impatience. Fredegund swallowed hard, ice cooling every inch of her anxiety. Gallo was still across the courtyard, his dark eyes now darting back toward the door, weighing his options. She saw the flicker of resolve on his face just before a guard turned, scanning the area with a keen gaze. Gallo's expression twisted into one of fear, and just like that, he became the commitment she clung to, the only one left who could save her from drowning in this sea of betrayal. Fredegund clenched her fists tightly, holding her breath as the guards moved closer. She could make out their silhouettes, the rough edges of their armor silhouetting her uncertainty. She felt the tug of an urge to call out to Gallo, to ask if he, too, could see the noose tightening around them. But the fear was heavy on her lips, sealing her voice away. Then, the sharp clang of metal pierced the air again, and the guards drew nearer, their voices rising in a distorted crescendo. "Where are you, Fredegund?" Another one shouted, the name laced with disdain, resentment spilling like poison into the night. As they closed in, Fredegund's thoughts whirled. Did Celeste betray her? Had Gallo betrayed her? She couldn't shake the feeling that their fates were inexplicably twisted together like roots of a deep-rooted tree, and she had to pry them apart before everything crumbled. Suddenly, Gallo moved, taking a step forward. "They are here for you. You can't let them find you," he hissed, glancing around before a step echoed too loudly in the silence. He was revealing himself, exposing his place just to shield her. Fredegund's heart twisted. She needed a plan. If she could only check the shadows. The guards began to fan out, their flashlights glancing over the courtyard like predators with a fixated hunger. Gallo seemed ready to bolt to her side, but Fredegund held her hand out as a silent command. "Wait. Don't," she mouthed, her voice a whisper caught in her throat. "Are you mad?" he asked, his eyes betraying a mixture of fear and frustration. "If you stay, I know what I'm doing," she hissed back, gripping her resolve. Just behind her, a wooden shed brimmed with shadows, potential hiding spot. If she could just slip away just then, one guard turned sharply, eyes locking onto her hiding place. The realization sent a shock up her spine, freezing her momentarily. She could feel the blood pulsing in her ears, the frantic drum of her heart hammering a rhythm of impending doom. "No? Fredegund." Gallo's voice rose above the tumult, panic twisting his features. The man stepped forward, and the moment shattered. Fredegund dashed from her hidden vantage, sprinting toward the shed while her body surged with adrenaline. She could hear footsteps pounding behind her, the guards' shouts mixing with the chaotic beat of her heart. "Don't let her escape," shouted the man, his voice a chilling command that spurred Fredegund to run faster. She shoved the door open and dove inside, the dull thud of the door echoing against the wooden walls as she crouched low, barely breathing. The darkness enveloped her like a shroud, but it provided scant comfort. She strained to listen, to catch any sound of Gallo. The guards swept into the courtyard, searching every inch. Fredegund clenched her fists, feeling the sharpness of fear boring into her gut. With Gallo in danger and uncertainty wrapping around her like vines, each second felt like an eternity. From the darkness of her hideaway, she watched through a narrow gap in the planks, her mind racing. What if he didn't make it? What if she had to choose between the man she loved and the safety of the throne? What if there were truths that lived in shadows far deeper than they both dared to explore? The weight of her choices hung heavy, and just as she thought she could breathe again, a shadow fell over the shed door. Would she find the courage to face whatever waited outside, or would fear tighten its grip, pulling her deeper into the web of deceit? Fredegund held her breath, her heart a wild drum in her ears as the shadow loomed larger. The shed felt claustrophobic, the pungent smell of damp wood mixing with the sharp tang of fear. She wanted to flee, to burst from her cramped sanctuary, but icy dread held her still. The darkness cocooned her, offering only a fragile promise of safety. While the torment outside mounted, the shadow moved, and a crack of light sliced through the slats, illuminating the dust mote swirling in the air. She caught her breath. Was it one of the guards? Or had Gallo made it back to her side? "Fredegund," a voice whispered, low and urgent. Her heart skipped as recognition hit. It was Gallo. He was close, but did he know she was so near? Did he think she'd been captured? Gallo. She wanted to scream, but the words died on her lips, swallowed by the overwhelming weight of fear. She pressed her ear closer to the door, straining to hear what was happening outside. Footsteps shuffled, and she dared to peer through a narrow gap. The sight made her stomach drop. For guards had formed a circle of grim determination around her hiding spot. One of them leaned closer to the shed, illuminating his cruel smile with a beam from his lantern. "Gallo's hiding her, I know it." The guard spat, his voice thick with malice. "We'll make this the last game of hide and seek he ever gets to play." The threat sent her breath hitching into her throat as panic surged anew. They were hunting him as well as her. "Gallo, be careful," she whispered, though she knew he couldn't hear her. "Let us check behind the shed," another guard suggested, his voice cutting through the gloom. "If he is smart, he'll have hidden her somewhere close." Fredegund's pulse quickened. If they found him first, what would happen? She shouldn't care, her survival mattered more than his, but she adored him. Her heart sputtered with desperate emotion, torn between instinct and feelings she couldn't ignore. Suddenly, the wooden door creaked, and Fredegund ducked down, pressing herself into the dark corner as the door jolted open. Light flooded the shed, and she squinted against its harsh glare. It wasn't one of the guards, it was Gallo, his expression filled with urgency and determination. "Fredegund. We need to move." His voice was laced with fear as he peered beyond her into the shadows, searching for danger. Before she could respond, the shrill shouts of the guards punctured the night. "There she is. Get her." Gallo's eyes widened. "No. We can't let them find you." "They'll go," she urged, pushing him toward the exit. "I can't let them take you. You have to stay safe." Gallo hesitated, the conflict etched across his features. "If we part now, how will we ever find each other again?" "We can't, trust me," she replied, a fierce clarity slicing through her fear. "You will find a way. Together, we can still escape this. You just have to be brave." As if the walls themselves were betraying them, another guard boomed out, "We're coming for you." Gallo's momentum snapped back into action. With one last desperate look, he slipped out into the night, leaving Fredegund alone once more in the dark. She took a breath, the chill air filling her lungs, knowing this moment would mark a point of no return. Her time was running out, and Gallo was out there, with enemies closing in around him. If she frightened the guards into retreat, could she come back for him? But what price would she have to pay to reach him again? Would she be willing to rise from the ashes of betrayal, her truth revealed to those who sought to shackle her? She could almost taste it, the bitter tang of desperation mixed with her resolve. In that narrow moment, Fredegund knew she had to choose, to hide safely, where the guards sought her, or to hunt the truth amid the shadows creeping closer to Gallo. Would Fredegund gather the strength to emerge from her dark hiding place, or would she remain a captive in her own throne of fear? Fredegund's heart hammered in her chest, a wild creature desperate to break free. She weighed her options like a pendulum swinging between survival and love. With every shred of willpower, she clung to the hope that Gallo was still out there, fighting against the encroaching darkness. "Think, Fredegund," she muttered, glancing at the trembling door. The guards, already drawn like wolves to a lamb, would come barreling in any second. But if they found her, Gallo wouldn't stand a chance. If they took him, no. Panic rippled through her. She couldn't let those thoughts consume her. In a sudden surge of courage, Fredegund crawled out from her cramped position, her body pressed low to the floor. The guards shouted their taunts outside, their voices growing closer, echoing in the confines of her mind. She had to act. She couldn't cower in the shadows any longer. With a steadying breath, she reached for a rusty tool hanging on the wall, a heavy wrench that felt cold and foreign in her grasp. She flexed her fingers around it, the weight grounding her urgency. Where there's a will, there's a fight. If they were going to take her, they'd have to pay the price. She opened the door, creaking slightly like a horror movie unfolding. The light from the guards' lanterns danced across her face, revealing the steely resolve painted in her eyes. She could smell their sweat, hear their laughter, and feel the heat of their bodies pressing her against the shed's wall, as if to erase her from existence. Fredegund stepped out, wrench raised, and called out, "You want me? Come and take me." The guards faltered, surprise painted across their faces. They exchanged glances, uncertain about this sudden move of defiance. "Look at the little queen," one barked, stepping forward, his bravado unwavering. "You think you can scare us?" Fredegund brandished the wrench. "I'd rather fight than hide. I won't let you take him without a struggle." This drew a roar of laughter from the other guards, but the sound only fueled her determination. This was no longer just about survival, it was about protecting Gallo, about showing that she would not cower before anyone. The lead guard sneered, "Let us see what you've got, girl." In a heartbeat, he lunged at her, but Fredegund swung the wrench, connecting with his arm and sending him staggering back. He howled, surprise mingled with pain. "Grab her!" shouted another guard, lunging forward. But Fredegund, heart racing, rose to defend herself, charging into a fray she had never anticipated. As the night erupted into chaos, she fought fiercely. Her heart thrummed with the rhythm of each blow. Pain blossomed across her arms, but she pushed through. Every ache was a reminder of her purpose. She caught glimpses between swings shadows in the distance, perhaps Gallo. The guards stumbled, their laughter turning to growls of anger, as they struggled to regroup. Fredegund felt a fire igniting within her. But in the back of her mind, another fear crept in. What if Gallo was nearby, but the guards found him first? She needed to push them back, to give him time. "Surrender! You can't win!" one guard yelled, his breath all hot and heavy, eyes wide with anger. "No? It's you who will surrender!" Fredegund screamed back, her voice pitched high with fierce resolve. Then, a loud crash echoed against the night. Something massive had fallen, and Fredegund turned to the source. A wooden support beam had given way, threatening to collapse right where Gallo might be hiding. "Gallo!" she shouted, terror seizing her heart. Had he been caught? But the dust cloud had barely settled when she felt his presence behind her. Fredegund! Their eyes locked, and in that instant, she knew he was there, alive and steadfast. Yet the guards were closing in, and she feared what lay behind her. The oppressive weight of the crumbling shed could draw them to a final confrontation. "Gallo, we have to leave, now." But could they escape together before the shadows swallowed them whole? The moment hung taut like a bowstring, ready to snap. Could love prevail over impending doom? Would they both be freed, or would betrayal seal their fates? Fredegund felt the world around her tilt, the sickening realization that time was against them. The roaring guards, the crumbling shed, the uncertainty of loyalty all swirled into chaos. But Gallo was here, alive, and that glimmer of hope ignited a fire in her chest. "Fredegund!" Gallo's powerful voice cut through the tension. "We can't stay here." She glanced at the guards, fuming and bewildered, their skills unraveling as they struggled to regain their footing. The sight fueled her resolve. She turned back to Gallo and shouted above the tempest, "We'll make it out together." With that, they charged through the fray, hearts racing in tandem. Fredegund wielded her wrench fiercely, swinging at the guards, her fear morphing into a fierce determination. Gallo stood tall beside her, ready to tackle any assailant, eyes burning with shared purpose. Together, they fought as a single unit, two souls entwined in battle. "Move this way," Gallo urged, his hand gripping hers as they maneuvered past the guards, weaving through the chaos. The heavy pounding of boots echoed like a drum, each step propelling them forward, but hesitation lingered at the edges of their minds. Would they truly escape? "Stay close," Fredegund shouted, adrenaline surging. She could feel the shadows of betrayal creeping in from all sides, like dark clouds threatening a storm. But this wasn't the end. She fought, not just for survival, but to reclaim her power, their love, and their freedom. They dashed toward the exit, the courtyard ahead illuminated by moonlight, a path that seemed to promise safety. But just as they neared, a figure emerged from the darkness, one of the guards, armed and ready. "Stop!" he shouted, raising his sword, but Fredegund's body responded instinctively. She swung her wrench with all her might, connecting against his weapon, sending it clattering across the stones. "Keep going," Gallo shouted, pulling her behind him as they escaped into the open. In an explosion of fury, the duo scrambled toward the main gate, the stars overhead a distant reminder of their shared hopes. "We can't let them catch us," Gallo called, fear threading through his voice, urging her to pick up the pace. They dashed past the gates, breathless and elated beneath the open sky, but danger loomed like an unwelcome shadow. Suddenly, they heard footsteps pounding behind them, closer now. Fredegund's heart raced, every thud reverberated through her. "We have to find shelter," she gasped, and Gallo nodded, eyes darting around for a sign of safety. "It's this way," he said, leading her toward a thicket of trees on the edge of the castle grounds. They plunged in, the branches clawing at them. Fredegund could barely breathe, her chest tight with fear and exhilaration. In the dense foliage, they crouched close, shadows engulfing their figures as they held their breaths, praying the guards wouldn't find them. Moments passed, their hearts sank in rapid desperation. And then, silence. Gallo looked at her, his eyes glimmering with unspoken words. "We did it," he murmured, when finally the sounds of pursuit faded into the distance. Relief washed over Fredegund like a summer rain, but the weight of uncertainty still lingered. They had escaped, but at what cost? "What now?" she asked softly, feeling the gravity of the moment pressing around them. Gallo's gaze hardened, determination flooding back into his eyes. "We don't go back," he stated firmly, taking her hand. "We forge a new path. They may think they've won, but this is our chance to take control." Fredegund felt warmth spreading within her, igniting the spark of shared rebellion. "Together then," she whispered, squeezing his hand tightly, their resolve set, they began to move, stepping out of the shadows and into the night, leaving behind the remnants of betrayal. It wasn't just about fighting against the kingdom that sought to pin them down. It was about finding strength within themselves and each other. As daybreak stretched tendrils of light across the horizon, they ventured toward an uncertain future, united against the chaos that awaited. Each step was a promise, a whisper of what lay ahead. Together, they would rise from the ashes of treachery, face the storms to come, and redefine their destinies. They would write their own story, unbound by the chains of fear or loyalty, carving their names into history, as kings and queens of their own making. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories unfolding in our realm. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support secures our future together. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this electrifying conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your action matters. Show the world the tale we've spun together.